Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Yamez here with Island Metal Forge, sponsor, and the Impractical Blacksmiths. We have with us Adam from Speargrass Forge and Transcendental Artist Studios, Sully, Alexis. Uh, Not on cam because she's at work and saving bandwidth, blah, 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 blah. Uh, we'll unmute to say hi. What's up, Trail Dust? In first, we got Shane Lone, uh, Mr. Pekka. Y'all just chit chatting, making me read through all this stuff. Bortagov, Paul Orchard, Ben Toombs, Paul. Yeah, I said Paul Orchard already. You guys, Robert Lonis. uh, and then, of course, hello to the lurkers. I mean, it's like, what, 5 names? And we got like 57 viewers. Don't forget to smoosh that like button. Today's going to be a fun show. You are going to see me and Adam argue heatedly. We may have to keep our hands on the edit button because there is going to, if we were in the same country, there would be fisticuffs going on today. we have.
Hey, you haven't changed the topic of the week on the actual screen there. It
Okay, I can do that real quick. My bad. You're gonna argue about. You're gonna argue about that now.
There's going to be some very well structured and calm debate today. This is just to let you guys know in chat. This has been a debate that's been going on for about 6 months, right? And the first time it was mentioned, I nearly got up and walked off. So it's one of those things that this is a topic that initially I thought Yamez was having a dig with me, but we've discussed it since, and we've kind of come to a middle point, and I realized that Yamez wasn't pulling the Mickey on me back then. But
we'll get to that. How was your week?
My week was relatively relaxing. As I said on the last show, I had the flu last week, so the start of this week was kind of just getting over that, but got a little bit of work done in the yard. Finally did some concreting, so I did my dog pen, need to do some concreting on the floor of that, so that we can put them back out there, because they've been under the veranda for the last couple of months because of the wet season, and they're digging up my gardens, and I'm getting absolutely jack of that. So that was the priority. Next week's priority is to get the little workshop I started building finished, so I can at least have some undercover area to do some work, because of course show season's coming up here, so I've got a whole heap of stuff to do in preparation to make some stock for that. I also have a new potential business opportunity with the darker side of the community, and I do the raised eyebrows there because I got contacted by some people that are involved in that community that want me to make some things for them. And hey, I don't judge anyone, as everyone knows, so I'm willing to
judge me
give that I'm willing to give that a bit of a shot. So I did with a friend of mine. I did a mock-up of something this week, just with some store-bought stuff, just so that I had measurements and all that type of stuff. Next step will be actually forging all the bits and pieces to actually put together to make this thing that they desire. So that's a little bit of other news and a bit of a sideline for me. But yeah, just slowly, now that the rain's starting to peter off, it's still raining fairly regularly. It's still raining every second day here at the moment, and fairly substantial. It's supposed to be dry season at the moment, so that's a bit frustrating. But getting things done. Went out and hung out with some friends on Saturday, and got to see a really, really good a really good friend of mine that I haven't seen for a long time, and got to sit down and have a really good chat and a bit of a catch up, and a bit of a laugh with her. So that was a good thing. and bit of a reminisce trip down memory lane. So that was really good. And yeah, so that was my week. I've had a fairly good week. I haven't really got anything negative to say about this week except for the rain and getting over the flu at the start of it. So yeah. What about you, Sully, or you, Yames? Who's up next?
Well, I'm not sure where Alexis is, if she can talk, but
Doesn't look like she can talk at the
give
moment.
a
So
second.
how about you go?
Okay. Yeah, my week. Wow. What a humdinger. All right. So, yeah, this week was supposed to be a big trenching job. Like 250 foot of trenching and sub panels and boat lifts and all that stuff. And, going through concrete driveways and all that stuff, digging by bulkheads, which include, these metal rods called tiebacks and all that stuff. There were 3 portions that I had to dig by hand and, cutting, getting a concrete saw and cutting through a concrete driveway, all of this, that, and the other thing. Basically, like backbreaking labor for 2 days to prep just to dig a trench. And, we'll get all that done. Then I install the sub panel and the grounding system all ready to run the wire. Just need to get the trench and run the wire. Bought $1,700 worth of wire for this job, exact length of an odd size wire because of the distance. And middle of the job, the dude pulls a permit, which is fine. He should have done it at the beginning, but he pulled the permit, and I don't know if the village was pissed at him for waiting so long or if whatever, but turns around and they say, oh, that shed was never, permitted when you installed it. And he, it's like, he bought the house with a shed on it, and they're making him go to this, like the zoning commission and everything. And the current situation is they're telling him that he either has to move it or remove the shed, and it's like, that'll totally screw up every plan that we've made. And so that job is currently on hold while that goes through the bureaucracy of, BS that is the local governments. And yeah, other things that happened this week, I got off of Boost Mobile and I am on now Verizon. So yay. For anybody who has my old number, it is no longer active. I'm not going to be passing it out, but for those of you who had it and need it, you know where to get me. You know where to reach me. Discord. And yeah, so that also, I will be having in a couple weeks a visitors coming down. Family was coming down for a visit, and they'll be arriving like midday on Saturday or Sunday or something, 2 weeks from now. And I'm going to see how that goes, depending on if they get a hotel room. I'll be at be meeting them at the hotel around 5 or 6 o'clock that Sunday. So I have, or if they camp here in our yard, I don't know. We'll figure it out. May or may not be live that evening, and we'll get it figured out. Yeah, so that was my week. Just a lot of hurry up and do nothings kind of things. And yeah, let's see. Does Alex have the mic yet?
Give me just a second.
Absolutely, I'll continue rambling. Yeah, so it's other things that I've done this week. Oh yeah, I cleared 3 vehicles. For those of you who know my shop layout or my property layout, and or have seen pictures of me, talking about it, the long process of clearing the yard. We had 3 junk trucks sitting along the side of my shop, and now they are completely gone. And it's
Hey, finally.
yeah, my yard is eerily empty. eerily empty. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So wait, you're actually getting space back?
I know.
See, guys in the chat, I'm one of the few people. I'm one of the lucky people that actually like. I even though I've never been there, I kind of have an idea of where Ayama's leads to because we've actually talked about our respective places via chat on Discord
Google
and
Earth.
stuff like that, and Google Earth. So I've seen what Yama's yard used to look like from an eagle eye perspective. And oh my god!
Yeah. Well, the cool thing with those trucks being out of the way, I can get my truck into the side yard now and hook up to some of these brush bushes or saplings and trees and crap that I need to pull out and wrap a chain around it and hook it to my truck and back out in 4 low. And all day yesterday I was roping up trees and pulling them out and tossing them by the fire pit, and so I am able to get my truck further back into the back 40 so that I can load it up with junk that needs to go to the dump, Hey, what's up, Hubcap? Yeah, I'll double check my filter. but yeah, so it's it's a big step to clearing the lot. I can get my truck around I can actually get my truck and drive it around so that my tailgate is by where my shop is, by where the forge is. So when I buy coal, I can back it right up to where I need to. It's just those 3 vehicles out of the way just makes it such a more potential.
It also means you can get your truck in there to start clearing out some of the other crap too.
Yeah. All right. Alex, I see your name flashing. What you got for us?
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, boy, my week has been a week, a 90-hour work week. Still had 2 days off. Managed to get out into the forge. Got another piece to my gallery project done, so I'm now 1/3 of the way complete on that. And yeah, that's about it. Yep, work. Also worked on a couple other projects, and yeah, got those almost done, and then threw them across the shop because I screwed them up. You know how that goes. That was my week, and I'm glad everybody could join us today, and sit and listen to you two argue, and then me come in and tell you how the way the cow ate the cabbage later on.
Right.
That's all I got.
But yeah, I rambled on just for that. No, I'm just kidding. Josh, yes, the big truck, the Explorer, and the Ranger are all gone. So also hello to all the new people popping in. James Jones, Jack Pines, Josh, everybody popping in. So yeah, as for the, you're going to sit there and listen to us argue. Let's get to the arguing. Today's topic is the lost city of Atlantis. Now, there being a caveat that all we can talk about is theory. There is little to no hard fact about the city of Atlantis. Okay, little to no. I mean, my theories and what I've researched comes across probably as the hardest fact that there can be concerning it, and even still, it's tenuous at best. With that caveat, I am completely correct in my theories and assumptions, and in no way, shape, or form should anybody argue or contradict my... Okay, I'm getting the side eye, so all right, we'll just move on. So I do believe, Alex, if you're able to take the mic for a moment, you have the mythological, like you we're looking into Plato and all of that stuff on what started the whole world's fascination with Atlantis.
Right.
And I know
So
yeah.
Man, uh, Atlantis was originally talked about by Plato back in 390 BC. He wrote two books called Timaeus and Critias, and in those books he mentioned Atlantis as being the aggressor. It was the antagonist in the story that basically came and put the city of Athens under siege, and then the Athenians, because they're the protagonists in the story, successfully repelled the barbarian invaders. Which, I mean, they weren't really barbarian invaders. They were supposedly more technologically advanced, and they had the greatest navy in the world. They could say they were the only ones at the time that could sail the ocean without dying. And so they came and attacked Greece, and then when they were repelled, they went home. And the gods were so unhappy with them for attacking such a perfect nation that they sank the island of Atlantis into the Atlantic Ocean. And that is what the actual first, what do you call it?
First
mention of Atlantis is in Plato's works in 390 BC. So that is factual. And from there, every other mention of Atlantis after that kind of originates from Plato's writings.
It's all secondhand.
Some people assume that it was true, and some people assume that it was something else that he was talking about that he referred to as Atlantis, and some people maintain that he just completely made it all up and it's a work of fiction. So that is debatable and remains to be seen, and I have got to skip out for a minute while I set these motors.
Yeah. So that's a little prehistory of like why people talk about Atlantis, is because a historically great philosopher and scholar, Plato, brought it up. He started all of this. I think it's a conspiracy. Plato wanted me and Adam to argue. That's what this is all about. So, hey, Roy.
So are you going first? You've got to go first.
All right. Okay. So, well, I'll be going first and second and a lot more and this and that. Okay. So, there have been many theories as for the location of Atlantis. Many, like the traditionally accepted story, so to speak, of Atlantis is that it was an island nation that was sunk. Okay. And by the texts, when they say sunk, they mean literally, the island went shunk underwater, and that somewhere at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, you'll find a lost city. Some believe with people living there, some dome or something. I believe they made a documentary movie of it, but it was animated. And with that, people believe that Atlantis was populated by a people that of advanced technological civilization, and where, if I may put the quick caveat before Adam strangles me through the camera, by advanced civilization, we hear that and we think advanced to what we have. These texts talking about an advanced civilization are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, so advanced to them, advanced for their time period. Keep that in mind when we use the phrase advanced civilization or advanced technologies. So, in my theory of the location of Atlantis, and we will get all of this will go to blacksmithing because this will tie into a future episode. Okay, just so you guys know, bear with us. My theory, it's not my theory, but it's the theory that I have researched and kind of accept to be as true as possible concerning a mythological place, a legendary place, is that Atlantis was actually located in the eye of the Sahara, in what's called the Rashat structure. And this was some 12 to 13,000 years ago that Atlantis existed. Okay. The Atlantean Smith's forge bubbles. Yes, smithing underwater. Thank you, Roy. But yeah, so with that, so if you look into Plato's okay, so when he wrote his description of Atlantis, he was basing it off of somebody that at the time he had interviewed or he had talked to, some writings that he had come across and translated and this and that or whatever. It's like, the telephone game, hearsay, you know. And I've actually got a couple pictures and stuff, but in his writings he describes Atlantis as being concentric circles of land, alternating land and water, with a channel, a canal dug to the ocean, making it a seafaring civilization. All right, so there's really only one place on this earth that kind of follows that has that structure. He also describes in the reference points, the great mountains to the north, and to the north of the Rashat structure is the Atlas Mountains in what? Let me see. I'm trying to remember the. Anyway, to the north of them is the Atlas Mountains, where. All right, let me switch cameras here. Switch sources. There it is. Browser. All right. Let me transition over here to Giggle Earth. And I will pull up and zoom in to the area where Atlantis may have been. And I'll zoom back out and show you guys. Notice this while I zoom in, these striations of what looks like an ancient flow of water. Now this is the Rashat structure, okay? The Eye of the Sahara. All this white is sea salt. Confirmed, scientifically confirmed to be sea salt. Okay? Where's the sea? So that's one interesting thing. And this is bare bedrock. So before some sort of a flood or whatever, this may have had essentially ground, topsoils and stuff to create a more stable area, more livable area. And I'm really kind of going off the cuff of memory of research. I don't have the closest thing I have is this little blurb of artistic renditions and stuff like that and blah blah blah. But yeah, it is said it's like the whole theory of it getting flooded underwater and all that, or sinking, that could be a reference to something called the Younger Dryas event, which was like a great glacial melting, I believe, unknown as to what caused it. There's theories. That's a whole nother thing, but it essentially caused, and the Younger Dryas event was 12,000 years ago. It caused a rush of water to go all the way across the Sahara and essentially washed the entire city of Atlantis into the ocean, So the Aya Rashat in a nutshell, and to much other, or the Aya Sahara, this Rashat structure in a nutshell, is, in my opinion, the closest possible location for the lost city of Atlantis, of where it used to be. All right. So I'm getting a lot of side eyes and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't even know what the chat is saying.
I was just waiting. I was waiting for you to finish. Now I want people to know in the chat. I don't discount the possibility that Atlantis was a real civilization. And there's a couple of reasons why. I at a theoretical basis, there's a possibility it exists for a couple of reasons, right? One is that, first of all, it's not the first lost civilization that would be discovered that come from a source from ancient Greek times. Homer in the Iliad wrote about a city that had been completely destroyed during a war, and we all know that was Troy. And it wasn't until the late 1800s, 1900s, that the theoretical place of Troy was discovered. And it was only as recently as like 10, 15 years ago that they had actually done the archaeology to go down and discovered that that city had actually been built and burnt down something like 9 times. So the theory that Atlantis could have existed is sound.
Yeah.
I also don't discount the fact that by the description in Plato's
writings,
that the Eye of Richard does fit that description the best to the geological and geographical areas that we currently have on Earth. However, that said, the Earth has changed a lot. Now, the timeline that Plato writes about was around 10 to 12,000 years ago. And that means, and just in that 10 to 12,000 years, we had the end of an ice age, being the Younger Dryas. And then there was an event of some description, which is still argued about. And then we've moved into a Holocene, which is what we're currently in, which is a drier climate. So things have dried up. And
like my ex-wife. No, sorry. No, cut that.
Cut that one out. Anyway, so that's not to say I think that the Richard structure is where the potential Atlantis is. Now, I've had this discussion with Yamez before, and the reason why I say I don't necessarily is because according to Plato's description, the island of Atlantis was an island bigger than Turkey and Asia Minor combined. So it was a very large island. Second of all, it was also not far from the straits from the Pillars of Hercules. Now, the Pillars of Hercules are what they think were the Straits of Gibraltar now. So, and this is where the geographical location kind of comes under scrutiny, because back then they didn't. They theoretically, if Atlantis existed, they didn't have the ability to sail deep sea. They had the ability to sail just off the coast. As long as the coastline was in sight, it was fine. But they didn't have they theoretically didn't have the ability to sail deep sea. Now, if that's the case, then where the Eye of the Richard structure is located, it is technically not far past the Pillars of Hercules. That said, if you go straight out, it's still a fair distance from the Pillars of Hercules or the Straits of Gibraltar, you can still see those cliffs for a very, very, very long way, even after you lose sight of the mainland. So if you go straight out, then
I'll pull up the map again.
Yeah.
While you're talking.
If you go straight out, you can still go a fair while. Now, there is also, I believe, a historical fault along that region. Now, if you know anything about geology, when a tectonic plate meets, you have to have 2 plates, and they rub against each other. Now, you can have either a tectonic shift where it slides sideways. You can have a adduction where one plate goes up on top of the other, and that usually creates a mountain range, or you can have a tectonic subduction, where one plate goes underneath. Now, if there was an earthquake and that island was on that fault line and you had a tectonic subduction during an earthquake, which is, the wrath of the gods, all that type of stuff, or you had an earthquake which caused liquefaction of the sea floor, then that island could have actually sunk. So that's the Straits of Gibraltar Yama just brought out. And as you can see, there are islands directly out off that. So if you sail and keep going out off those islands and keep going, there is a good chance that there could have been even further out, there could have been islands, because as long as you can see land, you have a marker back then in order to sail by. Now, to go back even further to this, to add in further into that, like Yama said before, these were people. These were modern humans. Modern humans, they were just like us. They had the same brain capacity. Yeah, they had the same brain pattern. They had the same brains. They had the same capacity to think, right? Which means that they weren't dumb. Look at what we've done with our society. Look what the ancient Romans did 1,000 years ago. It stands that there is within reason. Look what the Mali Empire did. Look what the ancient Egyptians did. Stands within reason that this region of the earth, which had once been one of the most fertile parts of the planet, could and is also where they say the cradle of humanity was. Hundreds of thousands of years ago. If there was going to be a civilization that rose, it stands to reason that it could have been in this region. Again, we did a couple of months. Last month we did. For February we did Mali Empire, which was in this region, and it was the richest. It had the richest king, the richest person to have ever lived. Right, that's richer than Bezos, richer than all of them. Right, his estimated worth was $400 billion in today's money. So so it stands to reason that if there was an empire or a human that lived at this time and did get wiped out due to a catastrophic event, which can be linked to an event at the end of the youngest dryas, be it the end of the actual ice age or a meteorite impact or something like that, then absolutely this could have happened. So I don't disagree with Yamez about that. Where we disagreed originally was what we just said before. These were modern humans, right? And their technology was advanced to what would have been around at the time. So again, like Yamez stated, where the advanced technology we think advanced to us. Now, if you had a Stone Age peoples for most of the known world, or even a Copper Age people for most of the known world, because we know copper. Bronze technology goes back at least from the start of the Iron Age with around 1100 BC, 1100 to 700 BC, and for 3,000 to 4,000 years before that, bronze was the thing, right? So they were going back to 4,000 to 5,000 BC. Before that, it was copper, and we had copper for a long time. So if you have a Copper Age civilization, right, and suddenly they've got and the people that mastered bronze first, they would have been the rulers because they had better weapons, better technology. They would have been the boats that they developed, like the triremes and stuff like that from Egypt and the flat bottom boats from the ancient Greeks and stuff like that. They weren't developed until bronze tools were developed. And so if you had an Iron Age versus Copper Age society, and then again, that would be the difference between us now as an theoretically early Space Age society versus us, the Western world in the 1500s. We would have been sci-fi. We are sci-fi. And I mean, this goes back to the episode we did the other week about Alon and stuff like that. We have science fiction technologies now in our use.
Yeah.
So if you transfer that back 10,000 years and a Copper Age and some Stone Age versus
a Bronze Age.
a Bronze Age or even an Iron Age, there is a big gap there, several thousand years. And this is a gap that we've experienced in modern times too. And as bad as it is, if we look at particularly British, French and Spanish colonialism, and we go through a lot of the places that they colonized, they were an Iron Age or an industrial age civilization coming up against, stone, copper, early ages of civilizations, and they were wiped out by that difference in technology, or disease as well, but also by that difference in technology. So, and this is the reason why we're having this discussion today, because this does translate into blacksmithing in not so much in actual blacksmithing. It ties into the theoretical side of things. And I'm going to hand it back to you, Yamed, so you can counter some of my discussions there.
Well, not so much counter. This is turning into less of a argument than I would have liked. So I'm trying to come up with something that I can be like, no, you're wrong. But to go a little bit more on the technologically advanced society that when discussing Atlantis versus other civilizations in the area and in that region, you got to think of it also not just the tools that they're using, but the machines, air quotes, machines that they're using. It is theorized as well that to access the ocean from the Rashat structure, back then the Sahara Desert was likely, and actually I think they figured out it was grasslands at that point. It was still a desert in the absolute definition of what a desert is, but it was more of a savanna, with vegetation and life and rivers and lakes, etc., etc. And the technology to dig a large channel large enough to pass ocean-faring vessels through a landmass, connecting to rivers and lakes and other natural bodies of water, requires some more, for the time, advanced landscape construction techniques. So some of the tools that they probably created and techniques that they probably used would have been considered, advanced technologies. So we were not just talking about the metals, but techniques. And
also tools, right?
Yes,
and
also
the
tools.
And the reason why this ties into future episodes is because metallurgy, it's the easiest way to put it. We have to think about, okay, let's say at best this was a Bronze Age society. Okay, and so I say Bronze Age as in they had good quality and access to good quality bronze tooling. Okay, this period that we're talking about is pre-ancient Egypt. And what I mean by pre-ancient Egypt, pre-dynastic Egypt, pre-pyramids, or around the theoretical time, and I say this very, very loosely, the theoretical time of the building of the Sphinx. And the reason why I say this very loosely is because there's potential evidence at the base of the things of water erosion. Now, water erosion hasn't happened on the Giza Plateau for around 7,000 to 8,000 years. So, so it's theorized. So for that to have happened, it would have had to be built whilst there was still water or liquid precipitation over the Giza Plateau, and that's not flooding from the flooding of the River Nile, because the Giza Plateau is actually above that.
Yeah.
Now, so again, we're talking a period before the construction of the Sphinx. So even with all this ancient aliens theories about how the pyramids and the Sphinx was built, this civilization, this potential civilization, again, I'm going to caveat it because whilst it's plausible, I don't necessarily
not.
believe it's true.
Okay. So what you're going
Because-
into is my extended theory on it, that the survivors of the Younger Dryas event that wiped out Atlantis, my theory is that those people with the knowledge, the technological knowledge for building and landscaping structures, greater than, standing monoliths and whatnot, moved for greener pastures, essentially, to the Giza Plateau. And, at the start of the ancient Egyptian civilizations, not saying they started or that they were the original Egyptians or whatever, but maybe, met the ancient Egyptians, which I believe you said came from where? Nigeria?
Okay, so the ancient Egyptians, the actual kings and the people of proper dynastic ancient Egypt were actually Nubians. So they were black African peoples from further down the Nile or further up, depending on which way you're looking at it. The Nile, and their kingdoms are older than the original Nubian kingdoms, have pyramids that are older than those that were built in Egypt. Now, again, if there were a civilization and due to some catastrophic event, most of the civilization got wiped out. And this is why we've had Yamaz and I have had this conversation before, right? The people that actually built the civilization, their engineers, their builders, their scientists, whatever they were called, their mathematicians, their magic men, and their religious leaders and stuff like that, would have been in their cities. Now, I'm not saying that Atlantis was a city. It was described as by Plato as a nation. So the city of Atlantis, right,
would be like the
just
capital.
one place. Yeah, it was like a capital, and then of course they would have had towns and stuff like that. Now, if a Younger Dryas event type of thing happened, particularly if most of their empire, whatnot, was in northern part of Africa, then it would have been wiped off the map. But they would have had traders and and shipwrights and sailors and merchants all over the known world at the time, dealing with, particularly if they were the biggest empire, dealing with tribes and all sorts of things and mining and stuff like that. Now, someone actually in the chat said earlier about how it's human nature for the strong to control the weak. And that is true, right? Which is why, had a catastrophe or something like that happened and wiped out this, it was also very superstition time and wiped out this nation, which is what Plato describes. They counterattack against a nation that attacked them. The gods weren't happy. Something happened. They all died. Being very superstitious, had there been refugees left over and they tried to go to another nation, they probably would have been shunned at the time for displeasing the gods. That's theory number one. Part number two to that is, imagine you as a modern person with all your skills and knowledge. And I said this to Yamaz previously. Yamaz is, of course, an electrician, right? You're on a ship and a catastrophe happens in your home country and it wipes it off the planet. And you're now a refugee and you go somewhere else. Okay? Now, let's say the planet, everyone's relatively smart, but most of the smart people on the planet, for whatever reason, have been wiped out. All right, that's a global catastrophe. Now you come across people, and you can make, like Yamaz can, electricity, and you know how to make it on a fundamental level, right? But you need to have all the materials. So let's say you need, what is it, copper and iron that you need to create electricity.
Magnets, iron.
Okay, yeah. Now Yamaz, let's say, was in Japan. No, not Japan. Let's say Malaysia, Indonesia somewhere, right? And a rural island in Indonesia. And in order to make electricity, Yamaz has to tell them how to find those raw materials, then smelt them down, to and create those basic materials in order for Yamas to put them together to create electricity. Now, and then he's got to do that for every technology that he's ever come across, because we as space age people, we know how to use a telephone, we know how to use a computer, we know how to use electricity and all that type of thing. But unless you're specialized in that field, very few people know how to make them from scratch. So imagine going to a tribe in South America, an Amazonian tribe in South America, and try to describe to them how to build an iPhone.
Right.
You don't know, So in the event that this whole civilization got wiped out, the technological evidence of them, like I said, the Nubian kingdoms before Egypt, right? So let's say Egypt started 7,000, 8,000 years ago, right? There's still a 2,000 to 3,000 to 3,000 year gap between the start of Egypt and the, let's say, fall of Atlantis. So those refugees traveling over, and it's across Africa, all the way across Africa, from where Atlantis was to where the Nubian kingdoms were. People are going to pass on, even if there were hundreds of thousands of refugees, people are going to pass on that knowledge isn't going to be passed down. But the Nubians still built pyramids. So if they had the ability, if there were blacksmiths, for example, right, they knew how to work iron, but they might not have known how to smelt iron. Now, if the smelter, let's say there was an iron smeltery that was right in the path of this major disaster, all of the iron smelters, even though the blacksmith might have been on ships and other places, the ironmonger, the iron smelters might have been destroyed, and the people who knew how to smelt the iron at that time were killed. So now they go over and they've only got what iron they can use over to the Nubian kingdom, for example. They show them how to work stone.
Yeah.
And then that information is passed down for so many generations until they run out of the iron that they've already have. You know what I mean? So that if, and again, framing this as if the Atlanteans ever existed, that's my explanation for the degradation of knowledge.
Yeah, that's my possible theory would be that the Atlanteans, with their advanced earth working techniques and technologies, moved across and landed roughly in Egypt, in that area at the time, and basically assisted or began teaching them what they could, in the ways that they could, how to work with the tools that they know about, and kind of like it's possibility that the Sphinx was like here's what you can do with this, go forth and build more stuff, not literally the Sphinx, but for example, like showing them how to move large stones, or large, like clear and excavate large areas of earth, and build greater structures. And how this kind of ties into metalworking is the tools needed to do that. And we'll go into this much deeper when we start discussing the Egyptian dynasties and the construction of the pyramids and the tools that they used to do such. But using copper and copper tooling and stuff that may not have been available, or not available, but not known to the Nubian tribes that had moved north into the Giza Plateau, So it was that we know how to do this, kinda, move across, and okay, let's try and teach, what we know to help rebuild, our civilization as we knew it. But dang it, we don't know everything, because, all the smart people done died, So it's technology catastrophe. Okay, then you build up a little bit more, and it's like I think that's kind of what happened. Now again, the caveat is I got no proof. I got no, you know,
And
it's
and
all
and to
theory.
further add to that, right? Here's another thing.
Exactly, Roy.
We build our society as it is now. If a catastrophe happened, it would take less than 300 years for most of our structures and most of our infrastructure to completely disappear. Okay, look at and a perfect example of this is look at Mesoamerica, right? And northern the Incas, the Aztecs, all that type of stuff, right? There were Spanish explorers that wrote about these massive cities. A catastrophe happened, and 100 years later, when the Spanish came back through, there was no trace of those cities because the forests and the rainforests and stuff like that had swallowed them. Okay, now that's a really good analogy of how if technology and people are lost, how quickly the earth or the landscape or whatnot can swallow what we've got. Let's say, for example, it's only structures that are Göbekli Tepe, the Sphinx, the pyramids, Machu Picchu. These things that are built out of stone, native to an area, and also are made in such a way that are stable, that have lasted all this time. Stone erodes, but it doesn't erode as quick as concrete. Roman concrete. We've only just figured out, and literally, this year we've only just figured out how Roman concrete works and why it's lasted so long. And not all Roman concrete was the same. So, so we look at these types of things and go, they're and that's why I said, if, for example, Atlantis wasn't the Irish art structure and it was on an island off the Mediterranean and it's subsided in tectonic plates, that would literally wipe out any sign that something was there, and we have proof of this happening, or if there's liquefaction because of an earthquake and the island sunk, and we have proof of this happening in real time in the modern world. And I would like to draw your attention to one city that everyone knows, right? And that is, the city of canals. I want to see if the chat comes up with it.
Let me put while they try and come up with it.
Starts with V.
I will start bringing the map to it. So, let me know if they come up with it before I get to it. I'll try and go slow.
That's funny. I knew exactly what city you were talking about as soon as you mentioned it, just because I've been there. All right, back to my job.
Yeah, exactly. Donut got it with Venice. Venice is sinking, and it's sinking at a noticeable rate. Venice in Italy. It's in Italy.
But which coast?
That's a good question.
I can't remember.
I know it's in Italy.
My geology is, or my geography is horrible.
Put in the search. You have a search function on your Google Earth there, Yames. Yeah, look up Venice. But yeah, Venice is sinking. Right, it is a city that
I was
is
way
sinking.
off,
and it's not a relatively small city either. It's a relatively large city, but on an island that is sinking. So this is okay. Yeah, sure, it's happening in a very long period of time. But if we had an event which caused sea levels to rise, or if there was for example, a tsunami that came through, that place would be wiped off the map, gone. So imagine, if you look at Venice and go, there's a city that could sink into the sea.
Now imagine,
and it is currently sinking in the sea.
Imagine Venice gone. And it's, thousands and thousands of years later, and there's, historical references of a great city built on the sea. This is a modern day Atlantis. Huh? I'm smart, damn it. I want to go there. Look, it's like a little Italy. It's even got the boot.
It's in. Sometimes
No, look. Shut up. No, look. It's got the boot. It's got the boot. If you look at Venice, it's got the boot. They made Venice look like Italy.
Yeah, it's saying Venice is like Italy. It's in Italy.
No, it's like Venice. Like the shape of Venice is like the shape of Italy.
I understand the point you're trying to make, but still, oh boy. This is the type of thing that he does in order just to rile me up, I swear. Anyway,
Venice, it's like Italy, but yeah,
yeah. But going back, they had if this was a legit civilization. Again, I'm not discounting it because. Again, like I said before, Troy had been discounted for centuries as another allegory, as a city in a tale that existed. People still write off Plato's Atlantis as an allegory, right? Until we find hard evidence of it existing, we have to do that, right? Because anecdotal evidence isn't enough, okay? If there was an archaeological dig at the Eye of Sahara, the Richat structure, and they found something that dated that they could something made of wood or whatnot that they could date back to 10,000, 12,000 years ago, that was obviously worked, then absolutely, then we'd have some hard evidence to say yes.
They have found stuff around the Richat structure, just not inside the Richat structure. And my thing on that is, okay, in the Richat structure was built into, and this is where we're going to start the argument, damn it. The Richat structure was built into a sort of a valley between mountains, or just south of the Atlas Mountains. And it was around, it was in a lower area, okay? And then the flood came through, the Younger Dryas event, and everybody here knows the power of water. We're not going to lie about that. It pushed everything thousands of miles into the ocean, So the evidence, is not, the water displaced the evidence, So say, it scoured the topsoil. It took everything. If it scoured the topsoil, it obviously pulled the buildings with it. Because the Richat structure currently is sand-covered bedrock, drift sand-covered bedrock, all right? And it's a volcanic structure. The theory is that it's a dome volcanic structure is what created it originally. So you're not going to find you're not going to find
evidence of, yeah. Well, see, but here's and again, so like Yama said, it wasn't just a city. It would have had to have been an empire, a society, a country, which means there would have been more than one city. Sure, finding something at the Richat structure, it may have been right in the center of the path of whatever came through. It would be buried in the Atlantic Ocean under 10,000 years worth of sediment, and however many hundreds of thousands of kilometers of debris. So it would be worse than trying to find a theoretical needle in a haystack. But that in that case, we've got there would have had to been other settlements that had interactions along that part of Africa. We need to find evidence of that. Right, I will not, in good conscience, say that Atlantis existed. We have evidence of 10,000-year-old settlements along the coast of Northern Africa, Western Northern Africa, that could have possibly been linked to Atlantis.
Okay, so sorry, I had to step away. I'm looking for a pack of cigarettes. Plato's writings is anecdotal evidence. Okay.
Yes, it's not even direct.
And unless he literally just came up with it off the top of his head, that is second-hand witness to something. Hey, Mr. Plato, I found this is what I saw when I was traveling. I found some old stuff, or I know there's a 10,000 year difference between or from Plato at 300 BC and all of that stuff. But the fact that it was discussed at all, maybe.
Yeah. Look, and again, that's why I say I can't discount it, but I can't say in good conscience that it actually existed. Look, the civilization of Atlantis would have existed around the same time that Göbekli Tepe was built. It's as simple as that. Right now, Göbekli Tepe is an ancient iron religious structure that had animal carvings, and I don't mean carved into the stone, but carved from the stone. They sit out of these pillars. It is an amazing piece of architecture, linked to a civilization we know barely anything about. So, could it have been a religious shrine from the ancient Atlanteans? Sure. Mm-hmm. Right, but we have no evidence of any links, right? Yeah. Like Roy just said, it's very hard to believe that all our technology has come down around last 1,000 years, and people who lived before that weren't as intelligent as us. They were anatomically modern humans. They are exactly like us, just like we are from different nations, different skin colors, all that sort of thing. They are modern humans. They had our same thoughts and desires. There, if you look at cuneiform from the ancient Sumerians, sorry, they have letters of complaint to the copper merchant because the last copper shipment that was sent was bad quality, and they should be ashamed of themselves. There are love letters. There are rather blue letters between a husband and wife talking about what he will do to her when he returns. They were modern humans. If you look at ancient Romans and the ancient Greeks, they wrote on top of pillars and stuff like that, chisels in the stone. They wrote penis jokes and butt jokes, and Deuteronomy was here, and those types of things, and I did your mum, and all the sorts of wacky graffiti happened all the way back then. So they are modern humans, and Roy, and like we stated before, and like Roy said, 100% right. It's hard to believe that some form of advanced, and I do that advanced in vertical commas, of course, because advanced to them didn't exist. A country that gets a technological advantage becomes the dominant country until something happens. And it's not like the Earth hasn't been in the firing line of, ecological and natural disasters for hundreds of millions of years. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that something happened. But like I said, I can't, as someone that loves history,
this is where we're in agreement. I can't in good conscience either say that, civilizations from 10,000 years ago were, dumb savages that didn't know what they were doing, to put it in layman's terms. Yeah, that's a ridiculous superiority complex of the modern man. So there's that. Yeah, no, this has turned into less of an argument than I would have liked. So I'm going to shift this for the end game. And if Alexis wants to pop in and agree with me, she can. So, there is now just breaking news, evidence that Atlantis, the Atlantean people were actually aliens, and they moved over after the Younger Dryas and helped build the pyramids. Boom, breaking news.
I'm going to need just a couple minutes.
Okay. So.
Aliens.
I had to do something to spark a fight, dang it.
Ancient aliens.
No.
I don't generally show my religion or my belief system on the podcast, but God's help me.
All right.
If I have ever wanted one of my deities to come and smite you, it's been right now.
Yeah, well,
And that's coming from someone that's scientifically minded. Yes, I do have a belief system. Oh, yammers.
well, I promised an argument, and we just sat here and agreed. So, except for when I said, Venice looks like Italy. And so yeah, no, Atlantis and the first civilizations were built by aliens.
Mm-hmm.
The planet was seeded by aliens. We're actually from another planet as a species.
Oh, okay, if you want to go down that line, right? If you want to go down that line, okay, there is one species on this planet that theoretically could be extraterrestrial in origin.
Cephalopods.
Octopus, exactly.
Cephalopods.
Right. I will, because those things are strange, highly intelligent, and their DNA is wacky.
Yeah.
So I will agree. There is a possibility that aliens, but see, now I have it in
my
mind.
Come on.
Wait. Atlantis was a seafaring nation. It wasn't ancient aliens, human
Octopus
ancient aliens
helped
that come
build
down. It was
them.
ancient cephalopods that came down to help
Build
the
Atlantis.
build their civilization.
You know what? All right. To the audience, I promised an argument. I tried to antagonize an argument, and it still turned into an agreement. So the conclusion for y'all to take from this is Yamez is always correct.
No. The
Yes.
conclusion you should take from this is with the right open mind and the right sort of discourse, a middle point can be come to where I've got a headache. Oh. I've actually got a headache. You've given me a headache, Thomas.
Yes. All right. So a headache means that Adam is 100% in agreement with me, and he agrees that my theories are 100% rooted in science and based in fact. All right. So I win this round, and Venice is Italy. Let's see if I can zoom in and get that good old freaking vein popping on the forehead. I'm gonna get an earful in the after. I'm gonna get an earful in the after show.
Yeah, it's all gonna be swearing.
So again, it's a loose tie-in to metalworking, but the tie-in is that the potential for speculative metalworking in that era, that time period, could have been brought to the Egyptian area, mm-hmm. and helped with advancing the technologies of the time and the place to construct the pyramids. And yes, as Roy said, a 33,000 pound, block of sandstone can be moved with a fulcrum and a lever. Yes. That's the technology we're talking about, simple, what seems simple to us, as like, oh yeah, that makes sense. May have seemed simple to one, civilization back then, but not quite so like, I didn't think of that. How many times have you been given like, a new idea and go, I didn't even think of that, Just because you haven't thought of it doesn't mean that we, the humans don't have the capacity to think of it.
Yeah. And also part of the reason was today was Atlantis is such a far out topic. First of all, it's still April, but Atlantis is such a far out topic that we can have this sort of discussion, argument, debate, whatever, and because it is all so theoretical and also, whilst plausible, unprovable, it allows you to get those mental juices flowing and ask the question, what if? What if something was done this way? What if we did something this way? Hey, what if you guys start thinking this way, and then you think about something else that you can do with your smithing, and it leads to something like Alon. Or, you know, Damascus or something cool. Right. So again, this whole month, okay, yes, whilst it's been jokes and ha ha hardy ha, it's also been about
Critical
thinking outside
thinking.
the box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Critical thinking, thinking about outside the box, but also looking at the facts or looking at the information you're given and looking further or into it or further beyond it. And from the sound, it looks like, yeah, I was going to say, Alex wants to say something. Go ahead.
All right. So, God, I'm so busy this morning. Yeah, it's tough. But I finally was like, ooh, I see a spot. All right. So you guys are both wrong. Okay. So, you know, the city of Atlantis used to be out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right? Dang near dead center between Africa and the Americas. Well, eventually the people that lived there decided they needed to flee, and so they fired up their space drive and flew the city off to the Pegasus galaxy. And you know, and that was found back in 97 or 8 or something like that. And you know, and then, you know, they the teams over there, they kind of did what they could, found a couple 0-point modules and brought it back and landed it in San Francisco Bay, where it's still sitting today, as far as I know, cloaked.
Wait, I think I'm looking at this, and I think you're actually right. I'm looking at, I've got it on display. I'm looking at the location that you're talking about, dead smack in the center, and there is a missing area of land there. Okay, and it is roughly the size of the San Francisco Bay.
Say, we can't like talk about Atlantis and then me not bring up fucking Stargate. So,
right.
As soon as you said flew off to the Pegasus galaxy, it was like, okay, Stargate. Yep. Okay.
All right.
Yep. That's that. And you know, and like I spent a fair bit of reading last night about all this. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna let them have it. I'm gonna be busy, so yeah.
Yeah. You know.
I'm not ready, so hold on.
So
I said I'm not ready, so hold on.
Okay.
We get listen to.
All right. So yeah, we'll listen to Sally for a second.
Anyways, I gotta go, you guys. Y'all have a great week, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. And if you can't be good at it.
Heard. Thank you very much, Alex.
Awesome, Sally. Thank you. So, yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps up the topic for today. Because, I mean, we can't directly talk about anything metal smithing with Atlantis because we have nothing. But this does tie into, like Yamez said, the upcoming topic.
Episodes.
Yep, upcoming episodes where we're moving into a different civilization. And that is next month. So next month we're moving into next civilization, which ties into this topic and also ties into something that we've been hinting on going right back to the start of the year, where we've finally worked to the point where we can get to this civilization. Because there's going to be so much about it and so much argument coming, maybe not between me and Yamez, but a lot of people are going to disagree with some of the things that we have to say. Now, before we go,
metalworking.
Yep. There was one thing I forgot to add about this week that I discovered.
What's
and
that?
It was one of the most exciting parts of this week. Now, in the chat, Yamez, I have our group chat. The podcast chat. I've actually added a picture. Now, I discovered. Now, before you go sharing it there, Yamez, don't bring it up yet. Right?
Okay.
I want the chat to take a guess and ask. Damn it, you brought it up.
Yeah, it did.
Well, it happens, right? It doesn't matter. I was going to say, when do you think the ratcheting wrench was invented? and this was actually really tied into because I actually asked a few different people in our chats and stuff like that over the course of this week when I discovered this, when the ratcheting wrench was invented. And most people said 1970s, 1950s, all that type of stuff, right?
I'm going to say back 12,000 years ago.
Okay, we don't have proof of that, but the ratcheting wrench, as we know it today, right, was invented in 1863 by a J.J. Richardson. Now, it's different, a little bit different to the socketing wrench that we use today, as you can see from the original patent. And it was first introduced to the public in a magazine called The Scientific American. I think it was August or September 1864. Now, so that means that we have been using ratcheting wrenches for over 150 years. It first came with two sizes. So it was originally, the shaft bit was originally 3/8, 3/4 of an inch. And it came with, so you can see the two extra sockets that comes with in the bottom of the picture. So the second one was shafted for 1/2 inch, and the smallest one was shafted for 3/8, I think.
Which are still common use today.
Yeah, as you can see, they were square. That's because it was for use on carriage bolts back then. And we don't generally use square nuts and bolts anymore. But that is the original patent for the ratcheting wrench. So yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot of busted knuckles. But it's also, like I said, most people I've asked generally thought, the earliest was the 1930s, 1940s, so that's a piece of technology that we've had for a long time before we even thought it was possible. It was definitely a long time. There we go. New York. So it was New York, not New York. It was in the Scientific American, April 1864. It says right there. So
April 16th.
Yep. That was the April 16th edition of the Scientific American, 1864.
Hold on. Aren't we in April right now? It was today in 1864.
It was today, 1864.
Wow.
That's why I brought it up.
Okay. I didn't know you had a plan there. Today in 1864 was the patent for the...
Well, that was when it first appeared in the
Scientific Americans.
It was patented in June 16, 1863.
Yeah, you get that knowledge by looking up a little bit, which I didn't do. All right.
So yeah, so I thought that was really cool. But so that's a tool that we've been using for over 150 years. It's a really cool tool. As you can see, that was relatively technologically advanced and very machined. And I've actually seen a few examples, antique examples of it, by doing my research online, and it is a gorgeous tool. That handle that they have on it. That was wood. Yeah. But that handle on it was wood. It was blackened steel. It was absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, so that was the extra thing I found, and that was actually because I've worked all week on my book, as I said. So that was an extra bit that I found during the course of my research, and yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, anyway, so
I like it.
Let's move on to final thoughts. How's that?
All right. Well, my final thoughts are, simply, again, as always, thank you all for putting up with us. I know we've got some dumb, banter, but I find it interesting. And actually, to be fair, we have had more of a positive response of some of our silliness here than negative response. If y'all would like, it makes us feel better to read the comments after the show that are on the videos, like final comments from you guys, not in the chat, but on the video itself, letting us know what you think about the direction we're going. We love hearing that. If you don't like it, oh well. If 90% of the comments are "stop talking, you idiots," all right, we'll just turn it off. But I got the feeling that the majority of you guys actually enjoy what we do here. So I appreciate the heck out of that. Big thank you to all the channel moderators, the channel subscriber, or the channel members, and the channel subscribers. Those of you guys who participate in super chats and support and this and that, much appreciated. And as always, a massive, I couldn't do this without you. Thank you to my co-hosts, Adam and Alex. They make the show what I couldn't, So I think about that all the time. So.
Thank you. I like the appreciation. But yeah, guys, my final thoughts. I'll head on with the outro first. So thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it, guys. Your support is why we do it. I mean, if you weren't listening, we'd probably just be three idiots talking on the internet at each other and arguing about stuff like Atlantis and ancient Rome, or we still find this stuff massively interesting. But again, thanks for joining us. You can find Yames on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram here on Island Metal Forge. You can find Alex at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget, if you have any suggestions for Tool of the Week, Metal of the Week, or any other topic, you can leave it under the hashtag Metal of the Week on the YouTube community chat in Discord. And that includes a civilization that you might want us to cover in the future and talk about their metallurgy or their technological capabilities or potential. Have they been left alone? Their potential metallurgical developments. And that's, of course, in the YouTube community chat on Discord, or you can email us at impracticalblacksmith@gmail.com. If you found us on Anchor, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, and Google Podcasts, we generally upload every Wednesday or so. Sully has been doing an absolutely phenomenal job in getting us uploaded and caught up. We do have occasional bit of time off and we're a little bit behind, but that's getting caught up as we speak. And as soon as Sully has the spare time, because she is amazing. Or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's currently 11:30 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time on a Sunday night, but check that against your local time, and that's at the Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. Finally, again, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're listening to the podcast, don't forget to give us a star rating. We really do appreciate your support. Your support is part of the reason why we do this every week. So yeah.
And share it. Share. Let people know what we do here.
Share it on your socials, share it on, when we go live, let people know that we're going live. You're talking about blacksmithing, tell them about our podcast, damn it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've said what I've got to say. I'm pretty sure you said what you had to say there, Yames. Anything else?
No.
I got nothing else, so.
Yep. Okay.
Well, there you go.
I wasn't sure if you were back for a final thought. Thank you all. You guys have a wonderful day. Be safe, and that is us out of here now.
Hang on. Alex wants to say something.
Oh. No, I'm good. I thought Yamas had already gone. I thought we were fixing to end the stream. So.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. I thought you were trying to say wait. Well, we'll say something. Yeah, okay, you can end it now, Yamas.
I did want to say, I believe Jack Pine's Blacksmithing has moved his live streams to after this one. So if everybody would. Wants to or has time to or whatever, move over to Jack Pine's show once he goes live in a few, I think in half an hour. I believe it's noon Eastern is when he goes. Not certain.
Come back with it real easy.
Yeah, come back with it real easy. That's in my head now. All right, so you guys have a wonderful day. I'm going to maneuver over to the end stream button. All right.
Bye. Guys.